The iPhone XS and XS Max came out in late 2018 and were discontinued only a year later. They brought minimal upgrades over the iPhone X, with the main additions being the new gold color and larger sized Max iPhone. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91Sec, and while Apple hasn't been selling the iPhone XS since 2019, it can still be found in wide abundance on the used market, as well as in the pockets of many users. So today, let's discuss how it holds up in 2021 and whether or not it could even be worth buying. So first off, of course, the iPhone XS and XS Max hold up really well. Cameras are good, although newer iPhones have gotten better by a good bit, and everything else is still fairly top of the line, from the premium displays and the design to the amazing tech specs in the A12 chipset. Really, the only aspect of this phone that I have a problem with is battery life, particularly when it comes to the small iPhone XS. If you use your phone heavily, you might have trouble getting through the day. The iPhone 11 Pro really improved this, and I mean to a completely new level. We're talking the iPhone 11 Pro getting 4 more hours than the XS. 4 more hours. That's an insane increase, and when I switched from the XS to the 11 Pro Max back in 2019, that was to me the biggest improvement. It kind of blew me away, and honestly, it still does. That being said, the iPhone XS is still a very solid phone all around, and if you're not someone who needs hours and hours of battery life, or even might get something like a battery case to help you out, the XS still remains a top phone in 2021. It's smooth, it looks and feels nice, the display is just gorgeous. The max-sized XS especially makes it obvious the OLED panel just looks fantastic. If you're using this phone right now, you're totally fine, and if you are struggling with the battery life, I'd recommend you either just deal with it, consider the iPhone 12 or 12 Pro, or even just get a battery case. Apple sells battery cases for both the XS and XS Max, and while in my opinion they do look a little bit silly, apparently they're very premium and do a great job giving you even a full day of use in juice. And of course, there's always portable batteries as well, which are typically fairly cheap and can charge your phone quickly while in your backpack or whatever. So you do have options, and that's really what I'm trying to say. If you're considering actually buying the iPhone XS or XS Max in 2021, that can be a bit tougher. Generally, I'm not a fan of encouraging people to buy used because of all the issues that can spawn from that, such as degraded batteries or a device in a condition you didn't expect. But even with that, going to ebay.com, we can find the XS actually goes for a surprisingly reasonable $400 to $500, with the Max being closer to $500 or $600. That's not terrible, especially if you can find it for even cheaper. But then we have to ask about value. The iPhone XR brand new from Apple right now costs $500 straight up without a plan. Not that much more money for a phone that admittedly does have a much worse display, but pulls ahead in battery life and is also bigger than the regular iPhone XS. I'm not saying I recommend going for the iPhone XR over the XS, but because it's new, I do think it is the better choice for most people. Really though, I actually recommend going for the $600 iPhone 11 if you can stomach the downgraded display. It offers a much improved camera with an ultra wide lens as well as night mode photo taking, and then of course the battery life is just way better. I'll have my full iPhone buying guide in the description below if you're interested. If you are super set on getting that amazing display, you could always go to the iPhone 12 at $800 or even the 12 mini at $700 if you're okay with a small device. And then you're getting the newest and basically best of what Apple offers. But that's a lot of words, so let's take some time here and look closely at the iPhone XS and XS Max, starting with the design. Here I of course have the iPhone XS Max, and there's no denying that it's an absolutely gorgeous phone. We have a glass front and back with a stainless steel frame that perfectly complements the phone. The gold here looks really nice, and I was surprised just how much I really liked it, as I got this phone just fairly recently. I did used to have an iPhone XS, a smaller one in silver, back when it first came out, and I never really thought too much of the design because it was practically identical with the original iPhone X, but after using the 11 Pro and now the iPhone 12, going back to this, I have to say it's really nice. It looks great, it feels good, and it also doesn't have that almost obnoxiously huge camera bump newer iPhones have. I've mentioned 2 colors already, but we do have 3 options total: silver, space gray, and gold. All are great options, and the gold was a new addition to the lineup as the iPhone X only came in silver or space gray. This was also the last year of iPhones not to center the Apple logo, as well as retain the iPhone wordmark, a design choice some will prefer and some won't, different strokes for different folks and all that. This phone does look great from the back, but in my opinion where it really shines is from the front. The iPhone XS has a 5.8-inch display and the XS Max has 6.5 inches. The resolution resolutions are great and the screens are OLED, which means much more vibrant colors and deeper blacks. The display has to be the best aspect of this phone. It is absolutely gorgeous. If you've never used an OLED panel, trust me when I say this would be a big upgrade. That notch is there, and I know some people are gonna really dislike that, although I myself personally don't really mind. I find it blends in with the experience really well, and even when I originally got the iPhone 10 back in like 2017, I barely even noticed it after the first week. But it does mean no home button or Touch ID, instead giving us Face ID, so it 3D maps your face and scans it when you go to unlock your phone. It's simple, fast, and effective. The XS and XS Max's design, display, and biometrics provide a seamless and enjoyable experience over 2 years later. The battery life is rough though. I'll mention it again because for me, it's a big factor. The battery life, objectively speaking, just isn't that great, especially compared with the iPhone XR, 11, 11 Pro, and newer. The 11 Pro, as said before, got a 4-hour jump. 4 hours. That's the smaller 11 Pro from the smaller XS. 4 hours, simply because the newer processor allowed for better battery optimization, as well as the battery itself getting a bit larger. However, with all that being said, the XS can still get you a day of moderate use in most cases. I mean, I used it for a whole year, and while I would complain here and there, truthfully, most days it lasted me just fine. It won't be getting you more than a day, although the XS Max is better thanks to the physically bigger battery. All in all, it should do the job for you, assuming the phone hasn't been used too heavily in the last couple years, resulting in a degraded battery. You can check your battery health by going to settings, battery health. As long as it's over 80%, you're good to go. Once it drops to the low 80s or even under 80, that's when you might want to start considering a battery replacement through Apple. But let's turn to the camera. At the time of launch, one of the most talked about features. We have two cameras on the back here, both 12 megapixels, one being a wide lens and the other being a telephoto, giving 2x zoom. The phone can take portrait mode photos, which can look really good, and actually photos in general tend to look quite good. As mentioned before, the 11 and 11 Pro really did improve the cameras, especially with night photo taking, but the XS is more than satisfactory, and even now I'm still impressed by some of the shots I had taken with it. It's a good camera, not the best anymore, but still pretty darn good. And video on it is also strong with up to 4K 60 recording capabilities, so no worries whatsoever there. The selfie camera, on the other hand, is more just fine. It's 7 megapixels and can take a pretty good selfie, and can take portrait selfies if you'd like, but the 11 brought 12 megapixels, and so it does make this look worse in comparison. But it still more than does the job for Snapchat, Instagram, Zoom, FaceTime, or whatever else the kids are using these days. All in all, the camera is solid on the iPhone XS. I have no doubt in my mind most of you would be happy with it. I was really happy with it when I used the phone. And while things of course have gotten better, that's not exactly the fault of this phone. Technology progresses really fast, especially with cameras lately, and the XS definitely still does hold its own. It was top of the line in 2018, and with great lighting, it can do a great job. And what was not only top of the line in 2018, but I would still consider to be kind of top of the line was the technical specifications. We have Apple's A12 chipset and 4 gigabytes of RAM, and man, is this phone ever fast, even still. iOS 14 runs perfectly without any hiccups that I can find, and really, I don't think this phone will ever truly feel slow, at least not for a very long time. In terms of software support, it's tough to say how many more updates it will get, but I'd expect at least another 3 years at minimum, although it could easily go further. And right now, it can do pretty much anything the iPhone 12 Pro can do. Any app, any game, anything you throw at it will be smooth and practically flawless in the vast majority of cases. At the end of the day, I'm sure no one's too surprised the iPhone XS and XS Max hold up. Of course they do, they're not that old. They were around $1,000 only like a couple of years ago. Still though, it is nice to see they've aged so well, and while the battery life can be mediocre, other than that, they really have very few flaws in 2021. So with that, I think I'm right about done here. Do any of you still have the iPhone XS? How's it working for you? Let me know in the comments down below. Is the XS worth buying? Well, if you find a deal used, then sure, I would say it is, if you're okay with the downsides, but I would recommend going to the iPhone 12, probably in most cases. Should you upgrade from the XS? No, probably not. I mean, it's still a great phone. If you really want to upgrade from it, I'd wait until the iPhone 13, coming near the end of 2021, as it should be a pretty decent upgrade. If you found this video interesting or helpful, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech if you'd like to for some reason. And with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91tech, and I will see you all next time.